Hello everyone, welcome to our Luna Developers beginner training series. My name is Melissa and I'm going to be taking you through version control. So this is basically Git and GitHub and more. I'm going to dive in. So our first question I'm going to ask is, what is version control? So version control is a system that basically tracks and manages the changes to software code. It records the changes to a file or even a set of files over time so that you can really just recall the specific versions of it later on. It's also known as source control. Okay, so it's commonly run as standalone applications, but it may also be embedded in different environments. Okay, some benefits of version control include you can be able to track the developments and the changes made to your code in this case. That's it's called source control. Source control. You can be able to use it for future reference. So this is basically recording historical changes in your code. Maybe you want to go back to a previous version of your code. You can do this using version control. You can be able to experiment such that you have two different versions, and you can be able to do different things with it. So this is basically, that's why you can say you can be able to experiment. You can try out something here. If it fails, you always have the other version. Okay. Conflict management. If, for example, you are working on one single file, it will be very difficult, and because you will have some changes that will be basically clashing or conflicting. So, but using version control, you have different versions of the same document, so you can be able to manage that. You can revert to a previous version, so you can go back to maybe if you are trying something out and then it fails, you can always take a step back and revert to the previous version, that previous working version. And another benefit of version control is collaboration. You can collaborate with different developers on a single project. This is through probably applications such as GitHub and GitLab. Okay, so those are just some of the benefits of version control. Next, we're really just going to dive into what is Git. Okay, what is Git? Before probably I talk about Git, maybe I'd like to mention some version control has different types. You have the local version control. For the local version control, I can define it as it stores the different versions of the file on a local computer. Okay, so this is called an example is the RCS. Okay, so how does this work? It works by keeping those patch sets. Okay, those are the difference between the files in a spatial format disk, and you can always like recreate any file. You can always recreate what any file looked like at any point by adding up all those patches together. So those patch sets are kept, and then you can always recreate them, by now adding up all those patch sets together. Another version control system type is the centralized version control system. An example is Subversion, commonly known as SVN. So you can collaborate with developers. A benefit of Subversion is you can collaborate with developers. It also has a central server. So this centralized version control system was an upgrade to the local version control system. Okay, because before it was local to your computer, but now you can be able to, it's centralized such that you can be able to collaborate So this works by, it has a central server that contains all those version files, and a number of clients, so like different people who um, can be able to check out files from there. The only disadvantage to this is, since it has a central server, that means it has a single point of failure. Once that server fails, then all of you guys, your code is lost. That's it. That was the disadvantage of the centralized version control system. And then another type is the distributed version control system. So this is what we now commonly have: the Git, the Mercurial, the Bazaar, or DARCS. Okay, DARCS. You can check those out. So for this, the client fully mirrors the repository, including its full history. Okay, so this means that your machine is, or your version. Okay, so each local machine has the full history, has the full um, picture, okay, of the repository. So such that every clone, if you clone it from now, that repository, it has a full backup of the data, such that you have everyone else's work. Okay, so you can be able to collaborate, but once you clone, you can be able to see the different versions of, the different, everyone else's. It's all together. That's what I mean. Okay, it's best for collaboration simultaneously in different ways within the same project. Okay, yeah. So we can now, maybe that was just a brief. This is something interesting to know, the different types of version control. So next is, what is Git? Git is actually the most widely used modern version control system. It's basically for tracking changes in files. It's a distributed version control system for tracking the changes in your files. So it's the most widely used again, and when it was designed with performance and security and flexibility in mind, such that it was what's the word I'm looking for? It was a better version than the SVN. Okay, so yeah, some of the Git concepts include to keep track of code history, to take it takes snapshots of your file. You can, at each point in time, you can decide when to take a snapshot by making a commit. So every time you make a commit, you are basically taking a snapshot of your file or your project at that point in time, of which you can always visit it at any point. Okay, so you can also stage a commit before. You can also stage a file before you commit it by adding it. That means you stage it. Okay. Why Git? You will ask yourself, why Git? Nearly, you would use Git because nearly every operation is local to your machine. And that, okay, so it was designed with integrity. Again, it only adds data, and it has amazing branching capabilities, unlike the SVN or the centralized version control system. We have 3 states in Git. So a file, or it can either be modified, staged, or committed. What does it mean when I say a file is modified? To say a file is modified means you've changed the file but have not committed it to the database yet. So the file has been changed but has not been committed. So you've basically edited, maybe you've changed a text there, it was saying hello world, now it's saying hello. So you have modified that file. Okay, so that state is known as modified. The next state is staged. What does it mean when I say a file is staged? a file is staged. To say a file is staged means that it marked a modified file in its current version to go into your commit snapshot. So we're going to see this later, but this is basically the git add stage. Okay, you've marked it, you know, that file you've modified, you've marked it. Okay, so it's going to go to your next commit snapshot, and committed, as the name says, the data is safely stored in your local database. That means it has been committed. So those are the three states. So first you modify, you change something there, you stage it, you've marked it. So that means in its current version to go into your next commit snapshot. Then you've committed. So you've stored it to your local database. That means you've taken a snapshot of that file at that point in time. Let's get to installing Git. So let's see whether, I'll take you through how to install Git. Go to your browser, okay, and then you can just go to the Git's website. Just type Git. Go to downloads, and then you can find the instructions here. Okay, so if you already have it installed, you can do this. Okay, and if you have Mac, this is how you install it. And then for Linux, the instructions are here. You just follow the instructions here. They're very detailed. This is the best place for you to get the install instructions. Okay. For me, I already have Git installed, so I'll leave the link in the description. You can find it there. I'm just going to, since I have Git installed, I'm just going to confirm that by using Git. Okay, as you can see, this is the Git that's installed on my machine. So next, I'm going to take you through, let's just maximize this first. Okay. Let's do that. Okay. Next, now we're going to go into creating a repository or initializing a repository. Okay. So to initialize a new repository, you're going to use the Git. Let's first of all navigate to a folder where we want to create now that repository. Okay. CD is a command that we looked at in our previous video. Okay. So for me, it's just very. Okay, let's go to desktop. This is where I want my file to be located. Work. Then it can be located over here. So let's drag this here. Okay. So if you don't want it to be, let's put it there. Let's just create a folder on the desktop. Okay. So can utilize some of the commands we learned in the previous video. Can call our project Hello World. Okay. If we do an ls, you can see it has been created successfully. Here it is. Okay. So we're going to navigate to Hello World or Hello World project. You can just use the tab key. Okay. So now we're in our folder. So this is where we want to initialize our Git repository. So to do that, we are just going to run the git init command. Okay. Okay, so it has initialized. As you can see, you're using master as the name for the initial branch. We're going to get into what branches are later on. And then, so this is going to be, so master is always the default branch name for a local repository, because you say Git is local to your machine. Yeah, so names, some of the names that are commonly used are master or main, okay, or development. You can basically use any, but for Git, the initial branch is always called, is normally mostly called master. Okay, so now we have initialized our repository in this folder. Okay, so any file that you create will be tracked by Git. Okay, so next we're going to create a couple of okay, before that, there are ways, two ways actually, you can initialize a repository. You can clone an existing repository, so that clone will be on a like GitHub, so you can clone. We're going to get to that later on, okay, but for now let's just first of all see how we can do it locally on our machine. So the first, I'm going to create a few files inside this directory, global directory. Okay, so to create a file, touch index.html. Okay, I don't think we did that right. Yeah, so we're just going to do rm. Again, we went through these commands, so but you can always, we're going to add a list of these commands. We're going to link it down in the description, so you don't have to remember all this, but once over time you'll get used to such commands. Okay, if we do an ls, you can see we have removed this file, so we can do it again correctly this time. Touch index.html. okay, there we go. If we do an ls, you can see we have created an index.html file. Okay, so next we want to now add this file so that it can be committed. Okay, so if we want to check whether it's been tracked or not, we can do a git status. Okay, as you can see now, Git status literally just tells you the status of the file. So now our file is untracked, and you can use git add to add the file now. Okay. Okay. So let's go to, if you want to have a better view of this file, so we're going to go to, you can use VS Code. If you don't have it, let me just show you how you can download it. Just go to VS Code. Come here, download. Yeah, so if you have a Windows machine, you can download it here, or if you're using Linux or Mac, you can download and follow the install instructions. Okay. So since I already have mine installed, I can just go to open and then navigate to where my file is. Here it is, my directory. There it goes. Let's open it. Yes, trust the authors. So here's our file, okay? And in VS Code, it shows you whether the file is untracked, modified, and if it doesn't have, if it's untracked, for example, like this one, it will just show a U. If you've modified something, that is after you've committed a change, it will always show an M. So that shows you that that file needs to be committed. And if the file has been committed, then it will not show anything. Okay. So let's come here. VS Code also has a terminal, so you can just use the terminal located here, which is better, so that you can see the files clearly. Okay, so even when you run a git status here, you can see it's the same. It's still getting the changes. Now we can do a git add. Okay, and then you can do a git commit. This is the git commit command. So it's git and then commit and then a flag. This is called a flag. Then M standing for message and then the message that you want to commit. Okay. So for the commit, we're going to commit should be brief and also very descriptive, such that when you go through your commits, you can know exactly what you are committing. Okay. So for us, we are adding add an index file. Okay. So if we do a git status, you can see the working tree is clean and there's nothing to commit. So we have committed, there's nothing that is untracked right now. So Git can track now has taken a snapshot of at this moment in time of our directory. Okay. So yeah, and maybe we can create another one. We can do touch styles just to demonstrate well. Styles.css. Okay, and as you can see, these are our styles, and then we can do a git status first. Okay, so again, it shows you the branch you're in and shows you that this is an untracked file. It should be committed. Git add git commit add styles .css. You can just press the tab key. Okay, doesn't work on this. Okay, if we do a git status, we can see that our working tree is clean and it has been, and our change has been committed. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about the git ignore file. So this is a class of file that you wouldn't want Git to auto add or show as being tracked. Okay, so maybe let's do clear here. Sorry, it's very slow. Here. Let's do clear. Okay. So clear just clears our terminal here so that you can have ample space. Okay, so as I was saying, if you want to ignore a file, if you don't want Git to track a file, so most of these files, such as dependency caches, compiled code, files that are generated at runtime, so you don't want these files to be tracked, or even your keys. Like sometimes you might have passwords and keys in your code somewhere, and you don't want that to be tracked by Git. You can always have add them to the git ignore. So if you want to create a git ignore, this is how you do that. Touch dot okay, so automatically another thing I didn't explain is VS Code comes with the Git tools, bundled up with the Git tools, so that's why you can be able to access the terminal. It's able to recognize the Git ignore. You can see it even has a logo for Git. Okay, so this is untracked again. You can just, so anything you add here, any file that you add here is going to be ignored. It's not going to be tracked by Git. Okay, so let's git add this. Okay. Let's git add. Let's commit that. Okay, adds a git ignore file. Git ignore file. Sorry. So we have just committed our git ignore file. You can read more on that. Next, if you want, for example, let's create another file here. Touch app.js. Okay, so we have this file, right? Now we don't want to do git add and then git commit. So a shortcut for combining these two commands is git commit flag, then that, and then now the commit message. So now you don't have to do the git add and then the git commit. Add app.js file. Okay, what's the hiccup? What's the hiccup? Oh, yeah. Okay, let's do that again. Okay. Okay, I think this might be a problem. Okay, so the problem is because you are adding a new file. So this one is for adding a change in a file. Okay, so since you can just do that, and then can use this command. As you can see, there we have committed it successfully. So this is just a shortcut. Okay. So if you want to remove a file from Git, let's create a file that we can do. Let's just app.js. As you can see, the file has been removed from the list completely. Okay, so that's if you want to remove a file from Git. Remove from tracked files, okay, or the staging area. Let's clear. So that is all about Git if you're dealing with a local repository. So if you want to connect now your code to a remote repository such as Git, GitHub, or Bitbucket, or there's so many, or GitLab, sorry. So okay, those are the basic commands you will use while just the easy commands. There's so many more commands you can navigate with using Git, but those are just the everyday commands, the basic ones, you know. And now this is Git is local, right? But now if you want to collaborate with other developers and be able to share code and work on the same project, this is where GitHub comes in. GitHub is a code hosting platform for version control and collaboration. Okay, it lets you and others work together on projects from anywhere. And the difference between Git and GitHub is Git is the tool that's used to manage the multiple versions of code, and then now it can be transferred to GitHub. Okay, so GitHub serves it's a location for uploading the copies of a Git repository. They all work together, but now GitHub is where you can store them remotely, the different versions, instead of only storing them to your local machine, such that if you're anywhere, you can be able to, so long as you've pushed your code to GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket or any of those version control system, you can be able to access them. So let's go to the GitHub website and see. Okay. So if you don't have an account, you can just create. It's free. It's very simple. Yeah. Okay. So this is for creating an account, but I already have an account. Here it is. If you want to create an account, just fill in those details. Give me a second. Yeah. So here it is. They have like a really techie website. So for now, we're just going to log in. You enter your name and your password. So once you've logged in, you're going to be met with such a window. Okay, so this is your username. For me, it's now Luna Developer. And here you're going to find a list of repositories. So these are going to be the repositories that you've pushed to GitHub. So they're going to be listed here. If you want to create a new repository, this is where you create it. And here you have your profile. As you can see, if you want to change any of your details, your organization, your project, there's so many. So yeah, your settings, and then you can sign out. Okay. So let's head into creating a new repository. As you can see, it comes up with your owner's name. So the repository name, we're going to, let's name it Hello World. Okay. Okay. This is the name of our repository. We can add a simple description. Okay. This is a Git and GitHub demo repo. Okay. So your repository can either be public or private. If it's public, then that means anyone on the internet can see it. Anyone can pull. Anyone can be able to access it. And if it's private, you can be able to limit who can see or commit to it. You can send out invites and all that. So, and we have something called so if you already have an existing repo like we have, you can skip this and you can just create a repository straight away. But okay, for now, let's just create it in this way, and then I'll show you the other way. Okay, so we can add a README file. A README file basically gives you a description of the project that is on that repo. It is just basic. It is a description, very detailed with description with instructions. You can see here you can add a README to a repository to communicate important info about your project. Okay, so most repositories or projects, they should come with a README. It's always good practice, best practice actually, to have a README and also a license and some guidelines. So if you want people to contribute to your project, this is where you write the instructions, how to set up, things like that. Let's go back to our repository, and then so let's create, we can add a license. I'm going to be using the MIT license. You can look it up. It's it's basically for sharing code. That means it allows anyone to mostly can be able to use your code and yeah, and contribute to it. Okay, so create. Give it a second. So here is our project with the license and the README. So here's our README. We could actually edit it here if we wanted. So there we have created our first repo. So how you will wonder, how will we now get to access this repository from our machine? So this is where a command called cloning. Okay, so we're going to clone this to our local machine so that we can be able to now edit and add more to our project. So let's come back to our terminal. Okay, so let's navigate back to our parent directory, which is the desktop. So we can clone it on our desktop directly, or you can create a folder where you want your project to be located. So let's git clone, and then forgot to show you. So this is the to clone. You're going to take this URL. So it's going to point to where you're getting that, to this remote repository, basically. Hope you understand. Okay, so it's cloning. Okay, once that's done, if we head to our desktop, we can see our project. This is the project we have cloned. You can see it has the license and the README. Okay. So once that's done, let's open our project here on VS Code, in this editor. So VS Code, you can use it to make website, write HTML code, JavaScript, Angular, and the likes. It's very, very useful. Open folder. Okay, so here we are. We have our two files, the license and the readme.md. This .md stands for Markdown. What the language, if I may call it, used to write a readme is called Markdown. So that's why it has the .md extension. Okay. So let's open our terminal. And then we can do a Git status. Okay, so there's nothing to commit. Our working tree is complete. So let's create a file. I'm going to create an index.html file. If we do a we can do an ls, yeah, but it's actually clearly over here. And then we can do a git status. That's the command we're looking for. As you can see, this file is untracked, obviously. So we want to push this to our remote repository. We want to push this new file to our remote repository. So we're going to do a git add. Okay, because we want to store this local repo in our GitHub so that we can be able to collaborate with other developers. We do a git commit. Okay, so there we have committed our change. If we do a git status, okay, you can see our branch name has changed. We are on main, okay, and it's telling us your branch is ahead of origin main. So origin is the remote name for our project, okay. So its name is origin, and then the branch is main. So you are ahead by one commit. That means that we need to push this to our repository so that they can be at par with each other. Okay, so you need to git push to publish your local commits. Okay, so we can do a git push. So the command is just git push origin, the remote, because we are pushing it to our repository, our remote repository, okay? Git push origin main. This is the branch name, main. That's why we have to push it to the exact branch name. Okay, so we have pushed it successfully. So sometimes it will need you to authenticate to your GitHub. You just add probably your email and your password, and it should be okay. So now if you do a git status, you can see your branch is up to date, and that means in our remote repository, let's go and see. Let's just refresh. That means that the commits are at par. You can see here is our commits. Here you can see like your list of commits. This is the branch that you're in. I'm going to see more about branches later on, but yeah, as you can see, here is our remote, our initial commit, and this is the commit we just made with the new file we just created. Okay, so maybe we can make another change and push just to get the hang of it. Inside here, let's try HTML. Let's just get the HTML boilerplate code. You can edit the title, you can call it GitHub tutorial. Okay, for HTML you always have to save, but you could always configure it to auto-save. That's a story for another day, but you can always go and discover on your own. Okay, so as you can see now here you've modified, so that means there is something that needs to be committed and pushed. Let's just do clear. Let's come here, let's clear. Okay, so we can do a git status. Oops. So that's how you can see this needs to be, this has been modified. So we need to add and push. Commit. Add. What are we adding? HTML code. Oh, okay. We did not do a git add. Yes, pardon that. Git add. Yeah, and then git commit. Add HTML code. Okay, so if we do a git status, you can see the only thing left now, it's ahead by one commit, so we need to push our commits to our remote repo. Git push origin, our remote name, origin main, our branch name. Okay, nice. So we have pushed our code successfully. You can verify that over here. You can just come to this file and you can see there it is. Okay, so next I'm going to show you how you can collaborate or branch, create now a new branch such that you have the same copy of, you can modify this code, but this is how mostly in software development you create your own branch. You can be able to work on it and later merge those changes. You can be able to work on different things or even the same thing but differently. You can be able to experiment with different versions of your code, and if you want to merge those versions together, it's also possible. So that's basically, it's just creating a branch as the name suggests. Okay, it's just being able to work on, instead of having to edit one file which will become a nightmare over time, you just create a branch, you do your own change, you update, you do what you need to do, and then probably another developer has their own branch, and then you can merge both your changes to probably a main branch, and that way you don't have to have conflicting versions, and you edit someone else's work, it doesn't get confusing. It's easier to track the changes, it's easier to track your own changes, you can be able to track your commits, you can, yeah. So basically that's about branching and collaboration. So let's create a branch. So let me just show you practically. Git branch. So first we want to check which branch you're in. Let's do a git branch. You can see this is the only branch available, and that's where we are at, main, in the main branch. So we want to create a new branch. Okay, so if we do, and then we check out to that branch, check out. So Git Checkout is basically now navigating to, if you want to now navigate to this new branch that you have created, we use the Git Checkout and then the branch name, which in our case is development. Switched to branch development, and then if you want to check, just be able to see where we are. Okay, so you can see we are now in development, and our main branch is also there. So for in development, we want to add possibly a new code. Okay, let's add a H1. H1 is basically a heading. Okay, so we add, you can say, check me out. Check me out. Save, and then you can see it has been modified. So we do a git add, and then we do a git commit. Adds a heading. Okay, and then we can do a git push. So in this case, we're not going to push it to main, we are just going to push it now to our new branch. So git push origin development. Since the branch we are in is development. Okay, so we come to our GitHub. Let's just come back here. Okay. Then As you can see, development has had recent pushes, so we can either pull and merge here. You can see here's the difference, no title. Then there's now this one has this heading, okay? Or we could alternatively just do it in on the command line on the terminal. Okay. So, and also here you can see we now have two branches. Just don't, if we navigate here, we're going to see in our index.html, check me out, and then if we come back to main, it's not there. So now we want to pull the changes we've made in development to reflect in our main branch. So we want to merge those two branches together. Let's come here, let's do clear. For merging, we're going to do, first of all, we need to navigate to the main branch. So Git Checkout, main. Okay, so now we're in the main branch. So now we're going to do a git pull origin to pull the changes in development so that they can now merge with main. Origin development, git pull origin development, yes. Okay, nice. So now you can see if we do even a git branch, just so that you can confirm being main, and here is our change. It has reflected. We have been able to pull our changes from development to main. So you can see how you can easily collaborate with different developers in a project and be able to merge those changes together to complete your project. Okay, so sometimes during this merging, you might encounter some conflicts. Maybe there's a change that someone made and pushed, and before you also pushed your own changes. So when you merge, there's going to be some discrepancies, okay, will arise. So they're called merge conflicts. How would you alternatively deal with them? So maybe I could demonstrate probably how you could get a merge conflict. Let's say we added check me out. Yeah. Okay, so we've edited this one, okay? Let's save. Okay, let's save. So let's push this to our repo. Let's just do one liner. Okay, so we've committed it, and next let's push. Let's do a git push. We're in the main branch, so git push origin main. Okay, so we have pushed that successfully. Let's now switch to the development branch. So let's check out to the development branch. We've switched to this branch. Let's clear just so that let's do a git branch to confirm that. Okay, so now we're in development. You can see it doesn't have the change we've made to main. We can write here, check out my GitHub tutorials. Check out my GitHub tutorials. Let's save that. And then let's do a git add, then a git commit. unedited heading. Okay, so we've committed our change. Let's push. We're in development, so we are pushing to development. Git push origin development. Okay, there we go. So we have pushed that to development. So if we do now we want our main. Let me show you here. Let's refresh. Okay, so this is how our main is looking right now. Check me out here. And then this is how our development branch is looking. Okay, but we now want to merge, and this is how we want our our main branch to look like. We want it to read the heading, we want it to read check out my GitHub tutorials. So we're going to switch. Let's switch to, right now we're in development, right? So let's switch to main. Let's check out to main. Git checkout main, and then we're going to pull those changes from development. Git pull origin development. Okay. Now this is what we call a merge conflict. So you can see these are two different changes and we need to deal with them, but this is what we want. So since we are pulling for development, this is the incoming change, and then this is the current change. Okay, so we want to accept the incoming change, and once that's done, even here they tell you can be able to you commit, you fix the merge conflict, and then you commit those changes. Okay. So git add, git commit, and I forgot to show you, you could also accept both changes. So probably if you worked on the same file, but whatever you still want both your work to be in the same project, okay, in the same file, sorry, or both your code in this case. You know, maybe you added a code for a button here, and then someone else added code for another button here. Once you pull, but it's supposed to have the two buttons, you can also accept both. You can also accept both, and you'll be able to see those changes. So once you deal with it, you don't have to deal with it this way. You can, depends on how the situation, whatever you want exactly to achieve. Yeah, you just have to deal with it, and then now you come here and commit that, and then you push. Okay, git commit. Okay, then you can do a git push here in the main branch, right? Yes. So in the main branch, git push origin main. Okay, so if you come back here, refresh, you can see it's not giving you the prompt, to merge your changes, because both your branches now are at par, they are the same. So it's always good practice if you are collaborating on a project with someone else. You always pull their changes before you start working on yours. You always pull their changes so that to avoid these conflicts, because sometimes you can imagine if you've made so many commits, you've made so many, so many commits, it's going to be difficult to fix that. It's going to be a headache, a huge headache. Yeah, and it can happen, especially if you're dealing with large code bases. It's not going to always be as simple as this. You have to go through files and files. So it's always good practice to pull the changes first before you begin to commit, and then now you pull, you first of all merge, and then now you continue. So yeah, if you both constantly do that, you can be able to avoid some of this. I think we have come to the end of this course, this beginner course. Okay, so these are just the basic um, commands you can use in to in your projects. This is with this command you can basically tackle GitHub and Git comfortably, but there's more to it. There's still more and more to it. There's still so much more to learn. You can check out their website. You can find more. We're going to link some of the learning materials in the description. You can check that out. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Hope to see you in the next series.